Story 1. My friends who married in their 30s and had children during that time are much happier than those who married in their early 20s and had children then. Story 2. You will likely be more financially stable and mature if you wait until you are in your 30s, but you can make your own choices. Story 3. I got married at 32 after being with my partner for 14 years, and it felt like the right age for us. We aren't sure about having children, so I can't comment on that, but I think 34 would be a good age. Story 4. Between the ages of 25 and 35, you have enough time to explore your relationship and ensure you are with the right person. This period also allows both partners to start building a career and achieve greater financial security. Additionally, at this age, you are more likely to have a healthy child. Importantly, you want to live long enough to support your child into adulthood and enjoy life together. Parenthood is not limited to the first 18 years. It lasts a lifetime. You want to be present for milestones, such as your child's marriage and the birth of their children, and to be around as they turn 40 and beyond. However, this is just a general ideal and may not apply to everyone. If you find the one at 36, it's still possible to have a wonderful life and family together. If you have financial stability and meet the one at 18, you can start a family at that age too. For many, the most common time frame is between 25 and 35, but if your path differs, do not despair. Just avoid situations where you have children at 60 or older, as that may mean you miss significant life events like graduations. Story 5. I am 24 and getting married 2 months from now. My sister is 26, and I don't see her getting married in the next 7 years. Everyone has their own pace and path, and all are equally valid. Story 6. I don't think there is such a thing as the best time. It's all about the individuals and their relationships. I got engaged at 18, married at 20, and I have no children and am extremely happy. Other people I know who got married around the same age aren't together anymore. Some had children, some didn't. It's just too dependent on the people involved and their willingness to grow together. Story 7. To me, marriage and having children are typically for people in their 30s. You need to have some sort of foundation before anything. An early marriage seems like an 80% chance of divorce or an unhappy couple to me. Story 8. I don't think there is a right age. Everyone matures at slightly different rates and has different priorities. What's yours? For me, my priority has always been family, and my desire has always been to be a mother. Getting married at 20 and having children right away made sense to me. It may not make sense for your life, and that's okay. Don't let society pressure you into something you are not ready for. Story 9. My husband and I have been together for 10 years and married for 5. We are now expecting our first baby at the age of 27. We had the opportunity to live a little, travel internationally, buy a home, and establish ourselves in our careers, and we feel very solid. We took the time to grow together and build a strong foundation. Story 10. In my mid-20s, I am 25 years old, and all I have ever wanted is to get married and raise a family of my own. I desire to be happy with the life I wish to create. Unfortunately, it seems that may never happen. Story 11. It depends on how many sister wives you have, but you can start at least doubling them around 18 or 19. Story 12. In the current financial climate, I'd say that 30 is where I'm at financially. I would hate to bring a child into this world and not be able to give them a good life. Story 13. I do not believe there should be an age limit on when to get married and have children. I know people who married and had children at a young age who are happy, while some are now single parents. Some have money, and others are struggling financially. You need to be mentally and financially prepared to handle children, and I don't think an age can determine that. Story 14. I had a baby at 19, 25, 29, and now 32. Stress-wise, the worst experience was at 19, and the best was at 32. It's mentally baffling to feel really young but to have a middle schooler. Health-wise, 25 was the best. I had the least complications and interventions. Physically, 32 was the easiest. I had terrible morning sickness in the first trimester, but other than that, my pregnancy has been easy. I made it to 36 weeks still feeling great. However, I have had more monitoring and complications this pregnancy than in the others, such as gestational diabetes. There are really pros and cons for each age. Story 15. My fiancé and I have been together for 9 years and are getting married in 2 months. It's really whenever you feel ready for that. You also don't have to marry your partner. Marriage is not a requirement to spend forever with the one you love. My fiancé and I are 25, and we won't be having kids until our 30s or whenever we decide to buy a house and feel ready. Story 16. After living an independent life, you come to know who you are and what you want out of life. When you add a spouse and children, it can become unclear, and without a guiding principle, it is easy to feel lost. Story 17. When you find happiness within yourself and have the utmost trust in your partner, along with sufficient financial stability and a comfortable lifestyle, you will thrive. It is important to achieve this by your early 30s at the latest. Story 18. It is less about age and more about the situation, whether fiscal, mental, or physical. The same applies to your partner. Story 19. Besides financial and other concerns, it also depends on how many children you want. If you wait too long, you may not be fit enough to play sports with your third or fourth child. Frozen shoulder tends to start around 50 years old, and you may look like a grandparent when attending their school activities and graduation ceremonies. Story 20. I did it at 27. It was a good age. However, I had only known my ex-wife for a few months before she got pregnant. The money will be fine. The more important things lie in the support surrounding you. You need time away from home, and both of you need time and space. Story 21. I am so glad I did not get married in my 20s. I had 3 relationships and thought I was madly in love with each, believing we would get married. They all turned out to be awful. I had a 4-year break from being single, and now I am 29 in a healthy relationship and taking it slow. It feels like when I turned 26, my true personality started to form, and I stopped changing identities. I hope to get married around 30, and regarding kids, I will consider that after finishing nursing school. Story 22. It is up to you. Some people appreciate having children before the age of 25, allowing them to have adult children by the time they are 45. Some women prefer to wait until their late 30s, focusing on their careers and having the means to care for a child. It is a personal decision. However, I definitely would not have gotten married in my 20s. No way. Story 23. Marry in your mid-20s and have children in your late 30s or around 40. Delay this as much as possible to enjoy your partner. Men are fortunate in that they can marry a woman about 5 years younger and have children around 45, allowing them to experience the best of both worlds. I hope science continues to advance so that women can also have children at that age without the financial burden. Story 24. Chances are good that you can turn off your hearing aid to enjoy some quiet, and you probably won't be around when they are no longer cute. Story 25. I don't think it's about being the right age. It's about the right time in your life, which is different for everyone. Story 26. The answer is when you are ready. Do not rush into marriage and having children, as it is the biggest decision you will ever make, so be very thoughtful about it. I personally enjoyed getting married and having kids. I married at 29, had my first child at 31, and my second child at 36. That is it for me. No more kids. I would have preferred my children to be closer in age, but I also appreciate the age gap they have now. Story 27. When you meet the right person, it is more important to have the right partner than for it to happen at a specific time, in my opinion. Story 28. I think answers can vary by geography and socioeconomic conditions. I got married at 27, and my husband was 37. Although I felt ready for marriage, I also felt young. I knew I wanted to experience things before becoming a mother, travel, career, and the freedom to explore a large city. We were married and enjoyed these experiences for 7 years before our pregnancy. We had many financial stability goals that, while likely not necessary, were important to us. I am now pregnant at 34. My husband is 44, with our first child. Even though I am considered older for motherhood since I will be 35 at the time of birth, I think if you wait to feel completely ready, you never really will be. Both marriage and pregnancy can feel overwhelming regardless of age, which is why I recommend stabilizing your life and resources first. Can be a difficult adjustment as it is. Story 29. I am in my early 20s and got married last year, which is the best decision I have ever made. We will wait until our late 20s to have children, allowing us time to meet some of our financial goals while still being within a good biological timeline and not becoming older parents. Story 30 seconds without a doubt. Specifically 28 seconds, which is optimistic. I do not believe it would be mentally or financially beneficial for most people to do it any earlier unless they have generational wealth or are already very stable. Story 31. It depends. I am a man, so it relies less on my physical condition and more on my mental state. I became a father for the first time at 21 and for the last time at 47. I believe I was a better father at 47 than at 21 because I was more mature. I made better decisions, such as being home more to fulfill my role as a father rather than working 70 hours per week just to be a good provider. Story 32. The right time to get married is when you find the right person. There is no specific age. I have known people who got married very young and lasted over 60 years, as well as those who married in their 60s and later divorced. I am about to celebrate 20 years of marriage because I married my friend, not just someone attractive. We agreed on family and finances and get along well. We laugh and joke with each other, and we both have high sex drives. So we still like each other 22 years after we started dating and 25 years after we became friends. As for children, we have 2 in their 20s and 1 in their 30s. We were definitely better mentally prepared for the third child, but I can't say if that was due to being older or simply having experienced it twice before. I believe financial stability is more important than anything when you have a child. To be fair, when I was 22, I was earning $80,000 a year and had money saved. Then the economy crashed and we were financially strained for a couple of years, accumulating a lot of debt to stay afloat. We did not regain financial stability until a few years ago. My sister, however, waited until she was 35 to have a child, and she and her husband are millionaires, which makes financial stability a lot easier. That said, I have 3 amazing children and have never felt like we failed them in any way. The amount of money you have has nothing to do with the kind of parent you will be. Ultimately, finding the right person to have children with and to marry is the right time. Story 33. I am 29 with no children. Many of my friends who had children between the ages of 23 and 27 are experiencing depression, sometimes suicidal thoughts, marital issues, financial difficulties, and more. I have observed that they also tend to use screens as a parenting aid. They love their children, though, and do not regret having them. My friends or family who had children between the ages of 28 and 36 are in much better mental shape and are generally more effective parents. They usually have more financial resources, and their children tend to be more stable. This observation may not apply to everyone in each group, but it seems to hold true for the majority. The only thing I feel preemptively sad about, if I choose to have children after the age of 30, is that our parents may not be around as long. Story 34. It all depends on the age at which you meet the right partner. I use the word partner specifically because if you want children, you should ensure that you have an equal and compatible partner. I found mine at a very young age, got married at 22, had our first baby at 23, twins at 26, and now they are 22 and 19. My partner and I are happy, and our kids are wonderful young adults. It worked for us because we both prioritized the need to work together and support each other through hard times. My 22-year-old also found her partner and has been married for a year. There are no plans for children, but they are happy and enjoying life. Story 35. Personally, I got married at 33 after being together for 13 years. Having children is not a consideration for me, so I can't comment on that. My suggestion would be to pursue both when you are emotionally, financially, and physically ready. You don't want to rush things in your 20s, but you also might not want to start having children in your 40s. Story 36. My husband and I got married at 26 and 29, and we are now having our first baby at 28 and 31. I believe this is a pretty ideal scenario for us. I am the type of person who wants to be done having children by the age of 35, so this timeline works well for me. However, if I had met my husband earlier, I wouldn't have minded getting married sooner. Story 37. My wife and I got married when we were 24 and 27 and had our child at 27 and 30. In my experience, I am eternally grateful that I lived through my entire 20s without having a child. I enjoyed the freedom and was able to do many fun and interesting things, which made me feel ready for this change of pace. I was prepared to shift my focus from what I wanted to do to what I needed to do to give my child the best life. I fear I would not have maintained that perspective if I had a child in my early to mid-20s. Regarding marriage, I do not think there is an ideal age range, but I believe it is essential to truly know your partner before marrying them. Live together and explore all levels of intimacy before making that commitment. My wife and I were together for 5 years before we got married, and that foundation and intimate knowledge of each other were the building blocks of a successful marriage. Story 38. I don't think there's a specific age. If you believe you have the financial resources, time, energy, social network, emotional maturity, and sense of responsibility to care for a child, and you understand that it can be quite challenging but still desire to take on that responsibility, then it is the right time. This can occur at any age, whether young or old. Story 39. This community makes me feel heard as a 28-year-old in the Midwest. All of my friends are married with 2 or more children, and I'm just starting to feel ready for that step in life. However, I have heard many comments about how I may be too old for this. I was not ready in my early to mid-20s. I am surprised at how much my mindset and stability have changed even in the last year. I believe that my 30s are a great time to settle down and focus on starting a family. Story 40. I will be getting married at 25 next year. We are going to wait on having kids for another 2 years, but we both don't see a reason not to get married now. Story 41. I believe that marrying in your late 20s and having children in your early 30s is ideal. This timing allows for dating, personal growth, finding the right partner, establishing a career, enjoying a few years of marriage with the freedom to travel or relocate, and remaining active as your children grow up. Story 42. In marriage, the individual is the most important factor. Marry young and ensure you have a partner with whom you can grow. Marry when you have established yourself in a career or home, and make sure you and your partner align in values. Build a foundation together before having a child, as it changes dynamics. There is no set age for having a baby, but it is advisable to experience things that you can only do when you are not tied down, gain some wisdom, and, most importantly, be aware and comfortable with the notion that your needs will not be the priority for years. You cannot be selfish. The baby will need to be the priority. You may gain friends and lose friends once a baby arrives. I do not regret it at all, but I did not appreciate how carefree my life was before my daughter. I met my husband at 26, got engaged at 29, married at 31, and had my baby at 34. Now, at 36, I still feel like I have baby brain. Story 43. Regardless of your age, it is important to be 1. Physically healthy enough to care for a child and engage in activities with them. Emotionally healthy enough to nurture a child in a supportive manner. Financially stable enough to provide for a child, covering expenses such as childcare, food, shelter, clothing, toys, and activities. Story 44. It depends on how many children you ultimately want. For most people who just want 2 children, they tend to get married around age 28 and have kids around age 32. Having a few years of dual income, no kids with a savings rate of over 35% provides a significant financial advantage for the future, especially if both partners have employer-sponsored health coverage. Story 45. For men in their mid to late 30s, after they have established their careers and income, and for women in their 20s, my wife and I have 2 children and she wants a third. I have concerns about our age and child health. I had a consultation with a doctor. Down syndrome is related to the mother's age, increasing from 30, and autism is related to the father's age, but at a much later stage, like 45 and above. The female doctor mentioned that she used a surrogate, but no details were provided on why, and she stated that women are meant to have children in their 20s. Story 46. If you have young children, you have the energy to get through the challenging years and are only in your 40s once the kids move out of the house. However, you miss out on many experiences that other child-free friends are enjoying, and your financial stability may be at risk. If you wait to have children, you can enjoy your youth, build a career, and achieve financial stability, but then you may have to chase after kids when your joints are not as nimble and the effects of sleep deprivation are more pronounced. Story 47. The best age to get married is 40. The best age to have a baby is uncertain. I am not there yet. Biologically, it is better to have a child at 25. Story 48. It is not about age. I have seen poor parents and great parents of all ages. I have observed marriages that start early and end quickly, as well as those that begin later and thrive. Story 49. Get married when you find the right person. Have children when you desire to. Being ready or mature enough is a myth. Life is uncertain. Do not wait to live your dreams. Story 50. One should consider getting married and having children after they have retired. The best time to get married and have children could be in one's 50s, 60s, or 70s. It's the cherry on top, not the cake. When you are younger than 50, you are expected to work from 8 to 5 and build wealth for yourself. You need to buy houses, cars, and mobile phones. There are many people who have their first child at 70. Ageism pressures individuals to have children before they are ready, before they have become retired adults with wisdom, wealth, and time for their families. It is never too late to start a family or a career. The more you wait, the better it gets. The other comments here reflect ageist views, attempting to pressure people into having children in their 20s and 30s instead of at a more mature age. People do not mature at the same pace as before, and taking on too much responsibility before you are ready can hinder your mental health or prevent you from pursuing your dream career. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Many individuals in the baby boomer generation, for example, are proudly having children. Ultimately, everything I have said is just common sense when one rejects ageist views. Be a millionaire first, then have a child. Also, consider listening to financial experts to learn how to save money and build wealth. Story 51. Not before age 25 does your brain fully develop. The duration of dating is also important. Ideally, couples should live together for at least a year before making long-term commitments, especially during the first 2 years. Story 52. Individuals, culture, and family significantly change the practical landscape of life. Many people today are raised to be more like an adolescent than an adult. By ages 21 to 25, they often still exhibit behaviors associated with school children. People are often encouraged to prioritize individuality over family, making life more challenging and disjointed. Culturally, many believe that constant movement and solitude are positive choices. Most individuals do not have examples of healthy marriages and are deeply influenced by a mindset affected by divorce. In this context, most individuals do not transition into adulthood until around age 30, and they lack the skills to navigate life effectively during their formative years. However, if you belong to a supportive family and possess strong values, reaching adulthood around age 20 can be ideal. This also depends on personal value systems. If having a spouse and children at 20 disrupts your desire for nightlife, then that may indicate misaligned priorities. I know many 50-year-olds who embody the traits typically associated with 20-year-olds and are unable to maintain a family. Therefore, age alone is not a suitable measure of maturity. When a couple shares values and prioritizes family, with a solid support network, they can achieve more than their older counterparts. They are often more available to their children for a longer duration, serve as positive influences, and contribute to their family's support networks. For those embodying an individualistic, displaced mindset, reaching adulthood by age May 30th be optimistic. Story 53. Old enough that you won't resent your children for inhibiting your ability to socialize or travel, or pursue expensive hobbies. You have a realistic view of affording children. There's never enough money, but if you can barely support yourself, it's likely a good idea to wait. Story 54. By the time you are 30, you have someone younger designated as your power of attorney for your old age. You are divorced, still attractive, and your child is old enough to be home alone. Story 55. People say to chase your career and have a family later. I noticed that those in my generation who followed this advice seem to be the most depressed. At 38, They have a successful career but are now divorced and have a 5-year-old child. Story 56. Never. But honestly, in your early 30s, if you are likely to be more financially stable and have experienced relationships longer, you will know whether the one you are with is suited to raising kids. You are not too old for age to be a pregnancy risk factor. Story 57. When you are financially comfortable and feel mentally, emotionally, and physically prepared, you can do both. I got married young and I am planning for a baby young. Some people are over 40 before they even consider looking for a serious relationship. Everyone's timeline is acceptable as long as you are truly prepared for and committed to what you are signing up for. Story 58. I met my husband at 24, married at 28, and had a baby at 33. Felt like a delayed timeline, but I am happy about it now. Story 59. It depends. My wife and I were having this conversation. Maybe late 20s or early 30s, around ages 28 to 33. Ideally, we think about being married by our mid to late 20s, enjoying the marriage, working on our careers, and saving up. I'm 43 years old now. We had our first child in our mid-20s. I love my current phase as a parent, but I wish we had more time as a couple and for our careers. Story 60. As soon as you realize that the age at which you do such things doesn't matter. But then again, I am the one sharing that opinion, and I am only 16. Story 61. Guys, come on. I'm 18, and my engagement is in the next 3 months. I plan to marry within the next 2 years. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.